Welcome back to BEG Wrestling. I am honored to be here with Clarissa Chun, the Iowa women's head wrestling coach. And I must say, I did my research and I looked up your story before coming here. And your story is incredible. In fact, the first word that came to my mind was trailblazer, if you look through your past. So the first question I really want to ask you is, what is your motivation? What's been your driving force really throughout your life?
I don't know. I guess throughout my life, I was always just competitive and just enjoyed combat sports. I grew up doing judo, and it was a passion of mine since the first day I saw it when my brother did it, and I wanted to do it too. And I don't know. I think I just never slowed down since then.
Since judo, I know you started as a judo, and I believe you were a world five-time junior national champion,
Juniors,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what made you
Switch.
kind of evolve over to wrestling? Yeah.
Well, wrestling was high school sport in Hawaii. It was the first state to sanction girls wrestling. My high school wrestling coach tried to get me out for wrestling, and I kind of pushed it off for the 2 years because I was a swimmer as well. But at 4'11", swimming wasn't going to get me too far. Like I said, I was competitive. I wanted to be great no matter how much, I don't know, I guess wrestling didn't matter the size I was, my effort was the thing that was going to drive me to move forward and whatever I wanted to do.
So you moved into wrestling, and then, the other word I would say after trailblazer would be like perseverance, because so you go to the Olympics, and I believe you lost to the eventual gold medalist, right?
Yeah.
And then you were this close to getting a medal in a bronze medal match, but didn't. But then came back 4 years later, and were able to achieve that. What was the difference the first time to the second go around?
I think the biggest thing was self-belief, and that was just really at the international and Olympic level. But I would say the perseverance, even at the domestic level, there was a ton of solid, great wrestlers that came out of 48 kilos. And Patricia Miranda was, the reigning Olympic bronze medalist and world medalist. And in order to make the team, I had to beat her, and she's beaten me more times than I've beaten her, type of thing, and there's Mary Kelly, who's junior world medalist, a ton of talent at the 48 kilos. So it really was, I don't know, just finding my best self and bringing that to the match, and believing in that, and believing in what tools I had, rather than being concerned of what they were great at. So, yeah.
No, that's interesting, and it kind of reminds me. I talked to Sarah Hildebrand right before going to these past Olympics. Obviously, she won a gold medal, and she mentioned how her mindset has changed, and it's almost like she was more relaxed. But so that's interesting. Now, obviously, now you're the head coach of Iowa women's wrestling. But before I go there, previously you were involved in the women's freestyle coaching. So obviously, we just had a ton of success at these Olympics. So I guess my question to you, what is the culture? Are you still involved in the freestyle in any aspect? And what is the culture of women's wrestling?
Yeah. At Iowa, it really is, we always say for her, and it is about something bigger than themselves. As a team, really it's to, we're standing on the shoulders of the people who push this sport forward. You call me a trailblazer, but I think there's a whole generation before me that pushed for things that I got benefits from, to be able to, compete in high school, be able to be part of the first collegiate wrestling program at Missouri Valley College. There's so many people that push for these things within our sport, and even beyond that, on a bigger scale, with being at Iowa, Dr. Christine Grant was one of the trailblazers to push for Title IX, and I think that created opportunities for women across the country in various sports, for access to be able to go to school and play sports. So for her, and then we at Iowa do it for the people looking up to our women. They're being the role models, they're the future. they're the next, and with the women's wrestling at the at the national level, it really is that, I think, when we create a system where iron sharpens iron, it's then whoever makes that team is ready. That's where I feel, I was ready when it was my turn because of the people that pushed me within my weight class to find my best self to get out there and compete.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, women's wrestling certainly is exploding, and I think you're a big part of that, big piece of that. I mean, in your opinion, what would be the main reason, or what has led to this explosion in women's wrestling?
Opportunity. I think people are starting to understand what the sport can bring for a young girl, no different than a young boy. And it took a lot of work, right, from a lot of people behind the scenes to push the sport forward, to present like why wrestling for girls. And it makes sense, why not, and I think when you provide an opportunity for young girls to have a space and a place to be able to like strap up their shoes and, wrestle and compete, and, I think it was, people didn't see like combat sports for girls or women like 10, 20, 30 years ago type of
Certainly,
thing,
yeah.
And now it's the norm, you see female fighters out there, you see female like combat, like doing combat sports on a more regular. So why not, why not the explosion for it? Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you had this accoladed career, and then you freestyle coaching. What exactly brought you? How'd you end up in Iowa?
Oh, how did I end up in Iowa? Why not? Like wrestling is Mecca in Iowa, and University of Iowa was the first to step up as a Big Ten like conference, Power 5, Power 4 conference now, to start a women's wrestling program. That's energizing. Like I wanted to be a Hawkeye when I graduated high school, but there was no wrestling for women. So
Yeah.
I look at it as, just as I said, opportunity for young women to be able to pursue great things on the mat and off the mat in the classroom. We have great women who are really looking to excel beyond the sport of wrestling in their future careers. They want to be doctors and cardiothoracic surgeons and engineers, and they take their academics just as seriously, if not more, like as well, on top of trying to become a world and Olympic champion.
Yeah. No, I mean you're providing that platform, and it's leading to great things. I mean, speaking of great things, last year your team went undefeated, national champions, and at this rate you're on pace to maybe be the most accoladed collegiate coach of all time. Maybe I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I would say. But then in hindsight, we have programs like Penn State doesn't even have a women's team right now. So, I mean, what is the difference in Iowa? And can we, in your opinion, could we expect to see some of these other universities starting women's programs here in the near future?
I mean, I look forward to the day that other big programs start women's wrestling, because the talents across the country are there. When you say there's an explosion of women's wrestling, we now have a roster cap moving forward after this year. They're going to need and want to go somewhere, as you say that we went undefeated. It wasn't easy. It came down to the last match for everything, whether it was national duels or national championships, because as a country, we are building more depth, right? Like the more people are exposed to it and have opportunities to compete at a high level, being coached by great coaches across the country, it's so great to see like well accoladed and like wrestlers that, like high elite level wrestlers coaching, former wrestlers coaching women, they're jumping on board. So it's just going to create more depth across the country. So I'm hoping and waiting for that day, for someone like Penn State to start a women's wrestling program, because
you're waiting for more competition.
Yeah.
You want more competition.
Well, more opportunities for women
Yeah.
across the country is bigger than that too.
That's what it's really all about. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, you've had a great start to the career. Let me ask you, how has NIL impacted or changed what you do?
I think NIL in the women's wrestling space looks different, obviously, than football, basketball, and men's wrestling. But some of our women have been afforded great opportunities within the NIL space. That I'm grateful that they get those opportunities because they put themselves out there. They have their own personal brand. Actually, this, for example, Unbreakable Female Athlete. I feel like this is the greatest
I love it.
essence of NIL. This company, this platform, came from an Iowa rowing student athlete. She wanted to create a platform to educate the disparities between male and female sports within NCAA, and so she's created a brand, and has been taken off with it, and
That's awesome.
And it's her business. It's her way of making money off of her own brand, and why not? She's put in the work. She's done the research. She's done the business planning. She's done everything to be afforded to create opportunities for herself financially while being a student athlete rowing for University of Iowa. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's incredible. I'll have to make sure I share the link to it on the website. So, all right. Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about culture. Now, obviously, there's been some big changes here recently at Iowa, mainly the wrestling room. Okay, a lot of talk about this brand new wrestling room. Tell me about what would I feel if I walked into the wrestling room right now in Iowa?
Oh, massive, state of the art, just awesome. It really is a big facility with provided for both the men and the women's programs. They each have their own space. Got weights in there, 6 mats. You've got recovery center and lounge for the students to relax or study in. And then there's gonna be ours need to get filled in as we go along, as far as like a trophy case and things like that, right? A wall. I think that's cool. That wall came up, the All-American walls for our women came up just recently this year. So that's nice for them to see their hard work being recognized and just cemented into the facility. But really, it shows the great support for Iowa wrestling. So grateful for the Goschke family and the Nichols family to invest into creating a massive space for our student athletes to, feel comfortable and get some good hard training and work in. And it really is it's a testament when we walk in every day that the huge support for Iowa wrestling.
Yeah, it's state of the art, certainly a selling point to future wrestlers. Now, you mentioned the men's and the women's. You're all practicing in the same room. So, is there any type of interaction between maybe you and Tom Brands at all, or any kind of? Do you guys coach together, or is it kind of entirely separate?
Entirely separate. We're freestyle. Okay. They're folk style. They have their own practice times. We have our own practice times. I mean, we can come in passing from time to time, but we stay out of their way and we take care of business when it's our turn on the mats.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this place, is there do you guys get an audience watching you practice generally, or?
We haven't yet for practices. We've opened it up to the public for our wrestle-offs and things like that. Just trying to navigate, when to do certain things. Still learning a lot on my end. And it's a new facility, so there's been a lot of people coming in through the facility wanting to take a look at it, get a tour of it, and happy to show it. It's just a matter of timing and making sure that it doesn't disrupt or interfere with what we're trying to do and what's coming up.
Is it open to the public generally? Could I go there?
Yeah, well, it's a locked facility, so if you, I guess, know ahead of time or reach out ahead of time, we'll do tours of the facility at different times.
Yeah. Okay. I have to ask you one Tom Brands question. I'm a
Okay.
big Tom Brands
Yes.
fan, but a lot of people are intimidated by him.
Yeah.
If I got to know him as a person, is he as intimidating as he comes across on TV?
I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the individual, right? So, like, if he likes you, he's good, right? But if I would assume if he's questionable about you, then might be a little bit intimidating.
Intimidated. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
All right. If you could describe that room, the practice room, in one word, like what would it be?
It just depends if you're talking about men's or women's. For our side of the practice room, for our women's team, women are different than men. I'll say in that aspect. Our women know how to flip a switch. When it comes down to business, they know how to turn it on and rise to the occasion. But at the same time, we try to keep it light and fun at times. So it's not always so serious, because at the end of the day, it's wrestling. It's got to be fun. Otherwise it's going to be a really long season.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, because I would have just assumed that you guys probably have the same kind of dynamic, same culture going on, but not necessarily. So
yeah, I mean, I'm different. I grew up in a different way. I grew up in Hawaii, so maybe I'm, a little less intimidating. But doesn't mean that I'm not competitive. It doesn't mean that our women aren't competitive. I will even say, even at the national team level, every individual athlete was different. What works for one doesn't work for all generally. So
sure.
Like, I think there's times and places to create an environment where it's sustainable, like in that way. You just brought up Sarah Hildebrand earlier, and how she changed, like, in going into this 2024 Olympics, she had to make adjustments within herself.
Yep.
Maybe she took it way too serious going into 2021, which, every rightfully so, because when you want something so bad and you're trying to attain such high goals, that you think that's the only way to do it. But there's other ways of getting to that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and you've talked a lot about that. I mean, one other thing you said was just flipping the switch. And, I experienced that because I interviewed like Kennedy Blades, who knew one of the newest members of your team, and one of the nicest people you would ever meet. But then on the mat, just an absolute animal. So
Yes.
I guess during your coaching career, is there a specific story that maybe is one of your favorite, or a wrestler, or an experience, or how does the experience coaching compare to your success that you had as a wrestler?
I don't know if there's just one story that I share with our student athletes. The great thing is, like, everyone on my staff, like coaching staff, Coach Gary Mayab, Coach Tanya Verbeek, they all have great stories to share, like from their personal experiences, whether as an athlete themselves or coaching at the highest levels themselves too. So with that, there's always stories being shared, whether it's like wrestling stories. And if anyone knows Coach Mayab, he's a historian. He loves like history, and he probably knows everything. Like, I don't know if encyclopedia is known in this generation, but he knows a lot of great stories, and he could share and shed light in different ways, not just wrestling, but off the mat things too.
Sure. Yeah.
Life stories. So, so there's not just one story that gets shared over and over.
Yeah, I was trying to put you on the spot there, but you didn't give in. But but off that, I mean, I guess if there's like one message that you could deliver to the young women, I mean, you're obviously leading an incredible group of young women. What would be something that you would say to everyone out there?
Well, I think, like, in this generation, sometimes it's all like, sometimes people worry about what others think, and some people worry about the things that they can't control, and sometimes they look too far in the future, or maybe they look back at what happened and let it eat them up. So really, I think our messaging on a daily, and even for myself, is to be present and stay what's in front of you, take care of what's in front of you. And I think that's like the flipping the switch, right? Like, we can't think about last week or this exam coming up in 2 hours. But if we can take care of what's in front of us and like have intention and to what we're paying attention to, then then hopefully they're bringing out their best self in that moment. There's so many things in life that we cannot control, and it takes a lot of like I guess mental and emotional energy from ourselves, that if we continue to dive into the things that we can't control, but instead what can we control and what can we do, and that is in our control. So I think that's a more constant messaging that we always have with our student athletes, just because it's applicable throughout life, even for a great reminder for myself at times.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you've exemplified that throughout your life. And folks, I would encourage you to go read your story. It's incredible. Maybe you should write a book.
Nah.
You ever had plans of writing a book or anything?
Nah, everyone has a story, a great story. I'd love to read other people's stories.
Okay.
I think I put people to sleep with my story.
No, I don't think so. But okay, let me ask you something outside of wrestling. Tell me something about that no one knows. What do you do for fun?
Oh gosh, right now, not a whole lot. I like to get outside, be outside like whenever I get a chance, if the weather's nice. I'm an outdoorsy person. But for fun, right now it's football season, so I like watching football or sports in general. It was really fun watching, and it still is really fun to watch, like Iowa women's basketball team. It's just fun to go to different sporting events and support. But yeah, I don't know. It used to be hiking in the outdoors in Colorado when I was there. It used to be surfing in the ocean whenever I get to Hawaii. But in Iowa, I still need to explore a little bit. Just takes me a bit to get my feet on the ground as we try to do big things at Iowa. Yeah,
well, I would say so. And Clarissa, I know you have stuff to attend to, so I don't want to keep you too long, but I just want to say this has been an honor and an interview that I've been looking forward to for a long time. And in fact, folks, I was at an event last year, and coincidentally, I sat in the stands, and then you guys were out, and then your entire team came back and sat right beside me. I wanted to introduce myself, but I was a little intimidated. But you're not so intimidating now that I have a chance to talk to you. So, but folks, leading an incredible generation of women's wrestling here. Clarissa, is there any final thoughts that you kind of want to leave us with?
No, thank you for sharing people's stories and getting it out there, because we can all learn from everyone, and sometimes it's always good reminders to hear other people's stories and what they went through, struggles. Everyone has ups and downs in their lives, and I appreciate everything that you do and getting the stories out there.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I thank you very much, and maybe hopefully can talk to you sometime in the future.
Yes.
Right? So, all right, folks. Thank you very much. Been an honor. Clarissa Chun.
Thank you.
So you got to get the video of her swimming competition, which she's going to play.
Oh yeah, a swimming competition?
Effort was not there. Yeah, I do. Tell
All
me
right.
effort's not
It's one of the greatest videos of all time. Her swimming competition. She's like a foot tall.
Yeah.
And she gets up there and just like crushes
All right.
everybody.
If we can find it, I'll put it at the end of this interview. How about that?
Yes. Thank you.